Man, like they don't even pay attention. They can't see that there's people in a private chat right now.
Nope. As you fade out of consciousness, after the long, exhausting battle against the goblins, letting the unknown world of dreams wash over you. On the brink of sleep, you feel an odd, cool sensation overcome you. Opening your eyes, you see not the damp, dark cave that you went to sleep in, but instead an open field in front of a tall mountain. As you look around, you notice the air around you being crisp and cold. Snowflakes falling gently, but still sticking to your scales. Seeing this, you look down. There's not the armor you had on 2 minutes ago, but instead white, baggy clothes littered in dirt and mud. A new experience of piercing cold penetrates your scales. You find this sensation unsettling, as you've never been cold before. As you look around, paying more attention to your surroundings, you seem to be on an island of sorts, spanning about a mile out, with a lone mountain in the center. You can barely see the waves of crashing silver in the distance, the smell of salt water ever present, but not overbearing. You find it quite pleasant. The sky above you, clear blue, with a liquid pearl tone. Looking down, you see morning dew on the grass, though it be slightly freezing over. It crunches as you walk forward, the ground beginning to powder from the snow. You notice welcome back, welcome back. Your Discord just fucking died.
Yup.
You notice there are not many sounds in this place, yet there is no eerie feeling that you would normally have in a silent place. This quiet is one of true, pure bliss. As you begin to walk, you notice that your steps seem light, almost as if a weight of a burden has been taken off of your shoulders. For a second, and only a second, you feel at peace. From the skies above you, a booming voice proclaims, "Welcome home, my youngling. Come, see me. Pay repentance for the wrongs you have done. I will be waiting." And with that, you are left to do as you want.
Where am I? Besides, like we're at in this open field.
So you're about an open field. As you look behind you, you have about 500 feet or so before you look behind you and you see crashing waves, not of the typical blue water that you would represent with the ocean, but instead what looks to be solid silver in liquid form, waves crashing over one another. You notice that there is no beach. It's more as if it goes field into a straight drop off. About 3/4 of a mile in front of you is an enormous mountain, maybe probably like 3 miles in diameter, and it jags up into a small point, though you can barely make anything out on the mountain.
Hmm. I guess I'll make my journey towards the mountain.
Okay. Again, you notice that your steps almost seem light, as if not as if you were lighter in a sense, but as if you were every step you made was being absorbed by air. Um, it's also very cold. So as you make your way, it takes you about 7 minutes or so to walk there. Make me a perception check.
Yeah. Well, shit.
In front of you, you can see what looks to be a staircase carved into the mountain. The stairs at the bottom lined in gold around the edges, but it slowly wears off about 500 feet up, and that's about all you can see. As you look up and focus, though, you do see something gleaming off the side of the mountain.
I will climb the steps.
Alright? About 5 minutes into your trek up the mountain, the upward staircase becomes much harder to climb. The stairs narrow, the steps becoming increasingly thin to the point where you can barely fit half your foot on the step. The winds start to pick up and lash at your clothes, ripping them in all directions. Snow turns to sleet and hail as your shirt and pants become plastered to your body. You can't see much other than about a foot and a half in front of you, basically enough for the first 2 steps as you keep on going up. You can't hear anything as the wind and sleet completely deafen out all other sounds. Do you wish to continue?
Yeah, I do.
You trudge forward, shoes heavy with water and rain plastering coldness to your bones. Step after step, you continue. Your lungs burning, but still you decide to move on. The sky, dark gray, though you can barely see the clouds as all you see are sheets of sleet coming down towards you. The steps are as if you could barely step on them now. I need you to make me a dexterity saving check.
This is where I die.
You begin to slip, but you manage to catch yourself falling on all fours. As you crawl up the steps, you slowly manage to get back to your feet. You continue on for about another minute, lungs burning as you gasp for air. You step forward, and to your surprise, you start falling. 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 Seconds feel like minutes. Minutes turn to hours. Hours to days. You lose all sense of reality, direction, and time, falling for what seems to be an eternity suspended in darkness. Then your vision seems to steady. It almost looks like you've been frozen in time as you're falling on equal terms with each individual sheet of sleet as it falls. And then suddenly, you're plopped on the ground face first. Not hard,
Ow.
but gently.
Hmm?
You lie there momentarily before climbing to your knees. Your throat starts to burn as you can't help yourself from throwing up after the violent motions. Slowly, you calm yourself. Your breathing slows. Looking back, you realize you had fallen but a foot from where you were. As you climb to your knees, the first thing you notice is that there's grass. It too is also damp from the dew, but slowly freezing over and being coated with snow. As you look towards the sky, once gray and dim, it has been replaced with the prior crystal clear blue with a pearl tone. The air is sweet. It reminds you of the honeysuckle that you would find in the woods as you were adventuring as a kid. And looking forward, you see the walls of a gleaming palace. The palace appears metallic. Do you wish to approach the palace?
Yes.
As you draw closer, you see that the walls are made of solid platinum. As you push your way through the big oaken double doors, you are immediately taken aback at the interior. What looked like a fairly medium 3-story palace on the outside has changed into a palace with interior rooms almost 600 feet in width. The floors are a well-worn dark commute blue. Your footsteps clack, clack, clack as you go forward. You know this to be mithril, though you've very rarely seen it because of how rare of a mineral it is. But yet, these huge interior floors seem to be made of pure sheets of it. The walls on the inside seem to be made with copper, with ivory inlays. The large windows on the edges of the palace are lined in silvers and golds, with glittering gems of all colors set around the frame. Make me a perception check. You continue to walk forward, and you eventually come to a banquet table. Sitting around the table are 7 golden tabby cats, accompanied by an older man dressed in peasant's clothes, sitting with his back towards you, facing down the hall. On the opposite side of the table sits a middle-aged white man, black, very well-kept beard, short kept-up hair, adorned in white plate armor, with the edges plated in gold. A white flowing cape hangs off his back. None of it looks dirtied. The middle-aged man frowns upon seeing you, and you see the old man turn around and smile warmly, motioning you to come join him at the table. Would you like to join him?
I approach.
As you approach, a chair seemingly pulls out, though you can't see anybody that pulled it out. You feel a faint gust of wind push your hair back, or against your scales. Will you sit down?
I don't have any here. Yes.
As you sit, the golden tabbies jump onto the table, and they all start walking past you in a single file line. Some of them, maybe 2 or 3, you weren't exactly paying attention, give you a slight hiss. The old man speaks, which catches you off guard slightly. Please do forgive them. They are quite protective of this place. I am glad you came here, despite all your hardships. It shows that there is still promise within you yet. He turns toward the person on the other side of the table and gives off an ever so slight smirk. My friend here thinks you should be banished by the gods. You've shown a great deal of disrespect from the people that have taken care of you so well. I, on the other hand, think you still could be redeemable. If you so choose, you can redeem yourself in our eyes. You will not remain our knight, but you can preserve your innate abilities. Should you choose to follow us, what will it be?
Well, I kind of look around, still admiring my surroundings. Glance at the cats.
They
I look
glance
back at
back.
I look at the man that hasn't said a word yet, and I look back at the white male, and I agree with him.
The old man stands up. You hear his knees cackle as he stands up. He hobbles over in front of you, whispering, My child, I have great faith in you. Please do me proud and prove me right. Remember where you came from and who you worship. Do not forget what the gods you worship stand for. Go now. Be wise. As he reaches his hand out, extending a finger, waiting for you to place your forehead on his finger.
I do so.
As you look up and begin to lean your head inwards, you see his eyes are somber and remorseful, as if something troublesome were on his mind. Give me an insight check.
Ugh.
And with that, he touches your forehead. And for a second, your insides feel as if they were being twisted into a knot. And then all vision blurs to white. As your vision slowly returns, the feeling in your stomach subsides. You look around. You notice first the trees, green and full. The next thing you would notice would be the wind, sounds of rustling branches and grass as wind passes effortlessly through them. The grass is unkempt, but not tall. Birds are audible in the distance, but yet as you look around, you don't see any wildlife of any sorts. The next thing you notice are the sounds of horse hoofs. Looking down at your hands, you come to realize that there are thin leather reins in your hand. Looking past that, you see a chestnut horse with a black mane, accompanied with a bobbing motion as you're riding on it. You notice a gauntlet on your hand. It's familiar. You're back in your plate mail, the clanking of the armor ever present as you trot along the dirt-laid path. Off to your left, you see people that you recognize. However, you can't quite remember who they are. You count 3 in total. You walk on the trail for a short time. But as you try to talk, a feeling wells up in your chest, and you find yourself inaudible. So you sit there, silently reading the situation at hand. You don't feel panicked. You feel like you're there with a purpose. Soon down the trail, from behind you, there's a familiar scream. As you look behind you, one of your companions had fallen back behind the others. As you look closer, you see blood trailing from the corner of his mouth. And as you look farther down his body, you notice an arrow sticking through his bottom left gut. He lurches forward and falls off his horse, slumping down onto the ground. The party is rushed by what appear to be a mix of goblins and some tall, hulking humanoids covered in fur, wearing modest leather loincloths that cover up to their stomach, as well as leather arm bracers. They carry spiked clubs and are walking over to the fallen person as they shout to the goblins something you cannot understand. What do you do?
I will rush to my fallen friend's side.
You rush up to your fallen friend. The other 2 people turning around in shock, not knowing quite what to do. You bat aside one goblin as he comes up to stab him again with your shield. And you notice as you look around, there appear to be far too many goblins, more than you could count on your hand, and 3 of these hulking humanoids. What are you gonna do?
I will fight till I can't anymore.
At this moment, I think I can do you a favor and show you. So, you head moving back to help your friend, batting the goblin aside as more others rush around you. I'm gonna need you to roll initiative. As goblins begin to move forward, taking shots 2 horses fall, bringing down the party members with them. More goblins closing in, all in your direction. What are you gonna do?
I guess I'm gonna go for this one right here.
Alright.
And then I'll be using my battle axe.
Okay.
Fuck.
It's weird. You missed the target. But the target, even though it wouldn't have been hit, you see blood blush out of it. The goblin, looking confused as not quite sure what just happened, falls to his knees. You feel pain, and you not know why, but as you realize you have a slash in your armor right where the goblin had a slash, and you suffer 2 points of damage. Make me an intelligence check. You get a faint sense that the wound came when you swung your weapon, but not because you missed, because it happened before it would have even connected. Goblins close in around more. What do you choose to do? Some teammates trying to scurry down the path to get out of the way more. Your friend groaning and dragging himself along the ground.
Do I have any abilities?
You don't know?
Well, I want to rush to his side and use lay on hands.
A familiar warm feeling comes to your hands, but it's not what it normally feels like. You cast Cure Wounds at level 1, for which you roll you roll 1d8 plus your spellcasting modifier.
What's my
Your spellcasting modifier is it's in your spells tab. It's the plus X. Your spell bonus is 5. You see his wounds start to close up. The arrow push itself back out. He is confused. I'm no longer in pain. This voice strikes you as very familiar, though you still can't seem to remember where it's from. What else would you like to do?
Um, I would like to attempt to throw my javelin at this creature.
Okay. So, as you launch the javelin, roll for damage. It flies, strikes it right in the chest. Blood dripping. And then suddenly you too feel a sharp pain in your chest as you take 3 points of damage. The tall humanoid creature also falls backward and appears not to be moving again. Got more goblins rush in, surrounding your friend. 2 coming at you, making attacks against you. (16, 15, 18).
18 hits.
You take a singular point of damage. Further up the trail, your friends trying to run off. One of them pretty much managing to get away. One, however, is stopped and surrounded by goblins. What do you do?
Uh, Is there any way I could do like a sweeping cone, or does my breath weapon have to be stationary?
It would have to be stationary.
Alright. I would like to move from right here to right here and have my breath weapon go in this direction.
As you let out your breath, inflicting wounds on not only the 5 goblins in front of you, but also your friend. Your vision blackens, and you fall back, pain searing throughout your entire body. You hear a voice in your head. My child, have you forgotten what we stand for? Do you not know what we are gods over? I am disappointed. And from there you feel your consciousness fade. You come to consciousness again, and you're greeted by a familiar sight. You see not... you see... again, the same thing you saw before. Your vision comes to. You're surrounded in a forest. You see your 3 comrades, though. You still can't remember who they are. Again, your comrade yells out as you look behind, and you see him fall to the floor yet again, bleeding out through an arrow wound. What do you do?
Rush over to my fallen teammate again.
As you rush over, you realize his breathing, though jagged, is still steady. He is hurt and on the brink of dying.
Can I pick him up and put him on to my horse?
His body, seeming extremely light, as if the adrenaline running through your veins is overclocking your body. You lift him onto the horse with minimal effort.
Actually, can we put a pause in this just real quick?
Yep.
Now we'll be right back.
Okay. Fucking idiot. Welcome back.
Alright, so I was putting my fallen teammate on the horse.
Mm-hmm. You should also be at... Go to your character sheet. Alright. Your fallen teammate's on the horse, and he was awfully light. Didn't feel like it required much effort in the way of moving.
Well, since the last time I tried to use lay on hands and it did cure wounds, I'd like to try to use lay on hands again.
You cast again. You see a light from your hand, but you also notice a light that you didn't notice before glowing off your armor where the symbol of the Lord's Alliance once stood. As you look down very briefly, you notice it is no longer the Lord's Alliance symbol, but instead it's a symbol of Torm. So you cast Cure Wounds on him.
There, and that's 1d8 plus 5.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't put the space.
Plus 5 seems like a lot, but I'll go with it. Yep, so again, he heals, arrow pushing out of him. He looks back at you. His mouth opens, but you don't hear any sound.
Can I read lips, or is he not, like, wording anything?
Nothing that you can understand.
Yeah. Say, do it.
Anything else?
Yeah, after he's on the horse, I command him to go this direction to the opening over here.
Okay. So you see... Okay. Hey, stop it. I'm having troubles here for some reason. As you give the horse a slap on the back, the horse takes off into a trot. And just in the nick of time, too. Because goblins close in around you. Your horse scampering off. You see the others try to make a break for it up through the side. Some of them getting caught off. One's horse, you see the one in the back, gets shot down, falls, skids, and eventually ceases to move. What appears to be an elven woman, dressed in vaguely familiar blue robes with white trimmings, is now laying on the ground, breath taken out of her, as more goblins start to surround her. What do you do?
Can I use Thunder's Smite on a javelin?
I think that depends. If I'm correct, Thunderous Might specifies melee weapon. Yeah, when you making it hit with a melee weapon. So you could use it on a javelin if you were to make an
Use it
attack.
as a
Well,
lance.
yeah. So you could
Okay.
not Thor style lightning bolt throw a javelin. No,
Damn.
it's a good thought though.
Alright. Let's see. Do I have enough movement speed to get over to... No, I do not. Shit. Um. Alright, since this guy's 10 feet away, I'm not even in the 5 foot radius. So I'm gonna move right here to this back square,
Okay.
and then I'm going to cast my breath weapon,
Okay.
making sure there's no allies in the way this time.
All right. Go ahead and roll your breath weapon.
Really fucking two nat ones.
As you let out this breath, is there a certain way it looks? Certain way?
Well, instead of being the normal white frost, I this one seems to be a bit different. It's more of a bluish hue and almost more resembling fire versus ice, but it's still being cold damage.
Mm-hmm. So as it spreads out, blackening the skin of every goblin, not from being charred, but from being frostbitten. All of the goblins seem to freeze in place. You can't tell whether or not they're frozen or dead. You just know that they are no longer moving. And you suffer 5 points of cold damage.
Alright, so it's not my turn, right?
Correct. You see the remaining horse. Well, besides that one, you see the stray horse run off out of sight. This horse and its rider also vanish out of sight. And all that's left are the person laying on the ground and you. This person also managed to get away. The person getting back to her feet and stumbling over the horse manages to get around right here. As she's running away, you see a goblin reach out with its pike and stab her in the back of the calf. You hear agonizing wails as she continues to try and drag herself forward. The remaining goblins rush in around her, surrounding her. Some of them trying to take attacks. All but 2 missing. You see an arrow pierce her shoulder, her arm goes limp, and another take its scimitar and run it across her back. What do you do? All of these seem to be incapacitated. I will
since I can't make it, oh, let me get the exact distance first. I can get to right here in these squares, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want to get to right here
Okay.
on, and I'm going to like I can't produce any sound, can't I?
I suppose you haven't tried.
I would like to try to call out to the elvish woman to get her attention, and if she turns around, I'd like to throw her my shield.
You go to call out. Words escaping you, your throat tightens up. You get the sense that there's a psychological barrier between you and these people, that you just can't quite connect to them yet. If you were talking to yourself, you notice that you could.
Hmm. Can I get her attention by hitting my battle axe to my shield?
Well, as she's kind of stumbled over her horse, getting stabbed in the calf, shot in the arm, she's kind of like, and then slashed across the back. She had already recoiled from the goblin south of her, slashing across her back, so she's kind of turned, looking primarily at the goblin, but with you also in her peripherals. So you can assume that she could see you, just barely.
I hold my arm up to show to have her look at the shield as I would like to attempt to throw it to her.
Make me an athletics check.
Please don't fail, please don't fail, please don't fail, please don't fail.
We'll say at advantage. You take your shield, quickly unstrapping it, throwing it like a frisbee. It makes it just past this goblin, but almost as if it had landed on ice, it slides to her. Then she manages to pick it up, and she's a very small figure, but she just barely manages to pick it up as she kind of like hunkers down, trying to get somewhat behind cover of it.
Alright, so now I'm two-handing the axe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really all I can do for this turn.
This goblin tries to turn and run after this one, but quickly realizing that it's fruitless and he won't catch up. Other goblins closing in around on this one. The shield proving quite effective. As more pikes and scimitars trying to open her skin, she manages to block one, move out of the way of a couple. She dodges most, but another arrow, strikes her, not in the calf where she had already been hit, but in the thigh muscle.
Okay.
Weird. An arrow hits her, not in the leg where she had already had her calf pierced, but instead right in the middle. of her left leg. You see her legs quiver and buckle under her as she falls to her knees. She tries moving herself away, but only manages to get about this far as she's trying to move herself with one arm using the shield, as her other arm is still limp at her side. And with that, it is back to you.
Alright, how much distance can I get? Like to get right here, so then I still have not invoked any attacks of opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd like to roll to hit the goblin in front of me with my two-handed battle axe.
You bring the battle axe down. Split. Not. Your battle axe seems to just barely connect the edge of the axe, cutting down across its face from the middle of its forehead down its cheek. And as you see the goblin fall, you notice a liquid starts pouring into your left eye as you take 2 points of slashing damage.
Think I have any bonus actions I can do? No, I don't. I'd like to use my last 5 feet of movement.
Okay.
And I'll just be over this corpse.
You trot forward, stepping right in the middle of the goblin. Boot.
And can I let out like a roar?
Make me an intimidation check. At advantage. You feel from inside of you a warm glow, or I should say a warmth, that begins to swell in your chest, putting a surprising amount of pressure from inside your chest outwards as you feel your figure grow about half a foot, your chest expanding. You let out a roar that, to your surprise, is audible, but not only audible, deafening. All of the goblins in the area focus on you and run towards you, seemingly forgetting about this injured elven figure on the ground. They make attacks against you. I think only 2 hit, as you take 6 piercing damage, or 2 piercing, 4 slashing, as an arrow implants itself in between into the chink under your armor and your half plate, and another scimitar come crashing down against your back, not per se cutting you, but hitting you hard enough with an impact in the back that it momentarily takes your breath away. You see her puzzled as she drops the shield and manages to climb or crawl about that far away. As it is your turn.
You said she drops the shield?
Yeah. She's trying to get the fuck out of there and cannot move with the shield.
Okay.
She has 2 bad legs. Her arms limp at her side. She's like half army crawling across the ground, trying to get out of there, a blood trail being soaked in the ground.
Am I able to do a wide swing attack on all these enemies in my general vicinity?
I would have to say no, because at the momentum that you could swing one, as you would hit one goblin, the impact from it, I don't think you would fully be able to carry it around. It's not something you have very practiced much of.
Okay. Um, and I don't have any. Wait, I still have one spell charge. Um, I would like to try to use cure wounds on myself.
Before you feel another presence almost in your head. You don't know quite what it means or who it is, but you feel knowledge of something new that hadn't previously been there. And as you slowly start to understand, you hear another voice in your head. Heal. And then the presence leaves your mind.
Um, who said that?
You hear no response.
I try to heal.
As you reach out, tendrils of light come from your wrist, arcing, crossing, almost like fine lattice work of metal. And they reach out and absorb into the elven woman, and you cast Healing Word on her. You can roll it in your character sheet.
Okay.
As you hear her, as you heal her, you see her arm, though still bleeding, she manages to move it. Her legs ever so slightly regaining strength. As she looks back at you with tears in her eye, and she nods and then turns back. She gets to her feet, holding her arm still and walking away as the goblins close in on you. You feel a big wooden spiked club crash into the back of your armor. It knocks the wind out of you, knocks you to your hands and knees. You feel an arrow sink into the back of your calf. The pain is very real, sears through your whole body. Another arrow, and then a scimitar strike under your shoulder. And then a final goblin looking down at you. As you look up, blood soaked down your face, as he lifts up his scimitar and brings it down on your neck. Pain sears through your body. Vision black. And then you feel numbness. Suddenly, you awake with a gasp, lungs burning at the sudden surge of air in your lungs. Your eyes opening, and you realize you're now in a huge town square. Surrounding you are commoners of all shapes and sizes. They seem to be yelling towards something in the center of the plaza. You look down and examine yourself, and you realize that you are once again in white, common clothes, covered in dirt, grime, and mud. Your once glistening white scales, now covered and dirtied. As your hearing comes back to you, the ringing in your ears coming to a stop, you look towards the center where everybody is yelling towards. You see a wooden stage, roughly 10 feet by 10 feet. On the stage is a hulking form of a humanoid, about well taller than you, gray skin, looking almost cracked. He wears only black pants, with nothing over his chest. And on his head, he wears a black mask, with only the eyes cut out. In his hands, he holds the palm of a sword that is resting on the ground. You looking closer at the blade, you realize that it is a normal hilt and pommel, but the blade comes down and then suddenly stops at a sharp 90 degrees. The end blunt, but the sides long and sharp. You hear a yelling of a voice as the crowd quiets. You can start to discern who is speaking. Looking further to the right of the stage, you see a series of stairs. And being pushed up the stairs is a man in common clothing, also dirtied. He's middle-aged. He looks about like your average person that you would see in a normal day. His facial features stern, black beard, again shorter black hair. And on his face, hit the dirt running down his cheeks as he's crying. This man is wanted for crimes against Lord Gallivant. He is the culprit who stole the crown's diamond. Upon the crown's diamond, you hear the whole crowd boo. For this, he will be sentenced to death as punishment, to remind those who think you can get away with such foolishness that you cannot. As this person is brought forward, you hear his pleas. Please, sir, I didn't do this. I swear I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. I have a family. My wife is sick. My kids will have nobody to take care of them. On the stage, you notice there's a modest wooden block with a U-shape cut out of the middle of it. You recognize this as an executioner's block. You start to turn away, walking forward. You reach your hands into your pockets, trying to walk out of the town square. In your pockets, you feel a smooth, cold object. Rubbing your hands over it, you discern it to be a shape and the symbol of a crown. What do you do?
I would like to take out and inspect the object.
Are you just taking it out and looking at it, or are you trying to be
I,
secretive?
I would like to keep it hidden.
So you pull it out of your pocket, kind of pulling the pocket out with it as you just barely kind of look at it. What you see is a glistening diamond, completely translucent, not a scratch on it in sight. And it's cut into a circular shape. It almost looks like a coin, but carved into the middle of it appears to be a crown. The gem growing colder and colder in your hand, almost as if you feel like it's spreading down your arm. The man being dragged up on the stage is forced to his knees. Do you wish to do anything?
I scream, wait. As I would approach the
Give me a performance check
stage.
at advantage. Your voice is heard, though not loud. Some people start to look at you. As they look at you, they look down, and they see in your hand still you're holding the diamond. They start to speak up. Wait, hey, wait. Eventually you get the scribe that you now see was shouting out what this man was guilty of, and the executioner look up and see you. What do you do?
I approach the stage holding the gem in my hand.
They look at you with confusion. The guy, now with hands tied behind his back, head down against the executioner's block, looks up at you as much as he can, tears streaming down his eyes. He looks confused but relieved. The executioner kind of stands up a bit more, and the scribe says, "What is that in your hand?"
I reply, I believe it's the gem you're looking for.
"Are you accomplices with this man? You're pretty foolish
I
to have shown yourself here."
I look up at him as convincing as I can, saying, I do not know who this man is. I've never seen him before. I found myself here out of a, I don't want to say, like, how do I say, last thing I knew, I was in the field fighting, and then I wake up here in the middle of this crowd.
Make me a persuasion check at advantage.
King Christ, these rolls are terrible.
The scribe ponders for a minute, looks over at the executioner. The executioner gives a slight shrug. No words are spoken. The man, please, please, I don't know him. I didn't even steal from you guys. I wanted to talk to the Lord, and I was coming out, and then apparently these guys got stolen. But he has it. It's not me. I don't know what's going on. The scribe itches a small goatee he has on his chin. And begrudgingly cuts the rope around the guy's arms. Get out of here before I change my mind. The man runs off, scurries away. Apprehend him! The crowd closing in around you, reaching for your arms. What do you do?
I let out my dragon's roar because I don't want it to end like this, not fully being able to explain what's happened here.
You go to roar, but your voice is no longer there. Your throat again closes up. Arms now getting ever closer to you, reaching out towards your arms to restrain you. What are you doing?
Oh, God. I still try to push up towards the stage, offering the jewel and saying this is a big misunderstanding. I try to show them the battle wounds I swear I have from this previous fight.
You push away from the hands, walk up to the stage. You hand him the crown's jewel. Your arms feel cold, and the palm of your hand where you're holding it is now black with frostbite. He takes it from you, looking confused. As you go to speak out, show him the wounds that you've sustained everywhere. There's nothing but a dirty body. He looks over at the executioner. Grab him. The executioner starts making his way towards you. What do you do?
Can I cast Divine Sense?
No. The executioner now walks up, takes his big mitten hand and clasps it on your arm. It feels like he's crushing your arm almost, even though you notice he's not really holding your arm down that hard, but still feels as if your whole bone's about to be snapped in half from his hand. So he gives you a tug towards the center of the stage where the executioner's block stands. What do you do?
I look at the scribe and I plead with him that this is a huge misunderstanding. I don't know who any of you are. I've never been to this town before. And like I said before, I was just in the middle of a forest fighting. I was blacked out from fighting tens of goblins. And I don't know how I appeared here right now in front of you.
Again, as you get almost the first part of a word out, your voice is constrained. It feels as if a presence not your own is almost making you, almost trying to remind you. Maybe a lesson. You're tugged and pushed down to your knees. Do you resist?
No.
Your head.
Alright, 1 second. I'm getting a phone call from someone.
Okay.
Alright, that was fucking weird.
You feel the big mitten hand cup itself around the back of your head. Do you resist?
No.
Your head forcibly pushed down against the executioner's block. It stings, pushes your throat back in. Can't breathe well. You hear, and in an unexpected change of events, this is the person guilty for the crime, and he came to us. How wonderful. And now, he will be punished by death. Do you look straight down? Or are you trying to look around?
I look around.
As you look around, you now see the commoners' faces have no face. As you try to focus on them, their face blurs. It's a blur almost. You can't. You know that there's a face, but you cannot see it. You look to your right. You see the black boots. Your voice zoning out. The screams of the crowd you can no longer hear. The only thing that you can hear. The boot coming shoulder feet apart. You hear shh. You hear a blade grinding against a grindstone. Eventually, it comes to a stop. You feel the pain of your knees from the splintered boards underneath you. The pain in your neck from being pushed down against this block. You feel a shadow loom over you as you see in front of you on the ground the shadow of a sword being lifted high. Do you close your eyes?
No.
Your expression stoic and stern as you feel an ice-cold blade come down against your neck. You feel the skin break. You feel flesh cut. You feel your spine being cut into, and then eventually all the way through. You see your head fall, and from this perspective your head tumbles and comes to rest on the ground. And for 7 seconds after it happens, you see your neck clean cut, and then the world goes to dark. Your eyes open, neck tender from the sharp metal blade. You squint, almost expectantly waiting, but all you see is the banquet hall in front of you. There's nothing in sight other than food on the table. The seats are empty. What do you do?
I search for another room, hopefully trying to find people.
As you go to move your foot, you realize that strength is almost non-existent within your body. You notice you're back in your commoner clothes, dirtied, and you notice streaks of red start showing up and soaking your shirt. The pain in the back of your neck, ever so stinging, as you reach back and you feel an incision on the back of your neck. Though not deep, but blood still pours. You notice all the wounds from the goblin fight you still bear. You look back up, and the food on the table looks to be almost glowing and inviting.
Am I able to rip off parts of the commoner clothes and try to make like a makeshift tunic?
You could, as though you're bleeding and you feel pain. You feel exhausted, but you don't feel the normal sapping of your energy that you would feel as if you were dying.
What do I feel?
Pain and coldness. And you feel heat, but not in the form of a flame, but almost a heat, as if you were sitting around with friends in a tavern, fire keeping the tavern well warm. The heat that you feel is the jubilance of laughing with your friends. You get a flashback to the scene in the forest. You notice that you remember them. Childhood friends that you had not seen in almost a decade. The last thing you remember of them was them being dragged away as you started your paladin training. You come back, snap full attention. You feel exhausted, blood soaked in your clothes. And you see a chair. Again, push outwards, not making a sound, and you feel a breeze against you. Do you sit down?
Yes.
You
Or at
sit.
least attempt to.
You make your way over, and you sit down. The wind pushes you in. The food. Calling to you, beckoning. Your mouth salivating. On your tables are all your favorite foods that your father used to cook for you, which you have not had for so long. You see pies, meat pies, blueberry pies. You see the favorite juice that you had as a kid, made from apples and oranges. And the food still seemingly calls to you. What do you do?
I look around one last time to see if anybody's around.
No one.
I slowly reach for one of the meat pies.
Your hand grows ever warm as you reach towards them. You grab it. Your hand almost pushing it towards your mouth, as if willing you to eat it. Do you resist the urge?
Yes.
The food still glowing ever closer to your mouth. Your mouth salivating, almost opening as if to eat it. You go to stop yourself. Searing pain in your head. You know that you want it, but yet you're resisting. More pain. The wounds glow red and sear in pain. What do you do?
I continue to resist.
Wounds growing. The wound on your neck, though you can't see it, you feel it spread around your neck. Blood now flowing down. You feel weak. Your energy ever slowly draining. Do you still resist?
Yes.
As you resist, you feel more searing pain. The pain overloads your brain. To your surprise, not even the blades or the arrows that had once stabbed you or taken your head off had hurt this much. You've never processed this much pain before. It hurts. Your skin feels as if sandpaper is being dragged across it. It feels as if somebody is taking a knife and trying to scale you. Your scales feel like they're being ripped off. Wounds growing ever more. Blood pouring ever more. But yet the food still calls. And you get the sense of knowing that if you eat this, everything will be okay. Do you resist?
Yes.
As you resist more, pushing your hand back, your hand goes numb. The pie falls out of your hands, slops on the table. You lean forward and lose consciousness. Your vision black. All you can feel is pain. But through this pain, you see an image off in the distance, glowing yellow. Everything else black. You see one figure walk past you. The elven lady you saved. Two more figures pass. Your two other childhood friends. And then one more figure come and stop in front of you. It's the man who you don't know. The man gives you a nod. And slowly walks through you. Though you have no physical form, you feel a presence push through you. As it pushes through you, you awake. Sitting with your arms holding you up, sweat beading down your head. And as you look up, you see the old man. You look over to the other side, and you see the middle-aged man staring at you. The eyes of the old man, somber, but yet looked relieved. What do you do?
I tried to approach the man.
The one sitting down at the table?
Yes. Oh, wait. I'm not
Or
still
the
at the
old...
table.
You're
The old man
sitting...
that I've seen before.
You're sitting on the floor of the palace. Almost as you go to move your hands, you realize sweat covers the floor from where you've been sitting. The old man, as you notice as you look up, his fingers slightly pulling back. You get to your feet, and you look at the old man. But now, you can see almost clear, as if his form were shimmering. With a blue aura around him. The old man, looking at you. Well done. I did not think you would pass, nor did Torm. So he looks over to the man sitting at the table. The man gruffly says, I wanted to kill you after you failed the first time. But your peer is very convincing. He rubs his mustache down to his beard. The old man, as you go to look back at him, has walked further back down the room, about 150 feet away from you.
Jeez, he's quick.
And as you look at him, his form shimmers. And then all of a sudden, you see the old man's body seemingly explode apart. You see a wing, then a talon on the end of the wing. Another one. Before all that's left standing in front of you is a dragon. Standing about half the room's width. About 2, maybe 300 feet long. His wings look like sails of a caravel. His scales, pure white, almost like snow. But as you focus on them, you still see a blue aura almost swirled with the scales. Its eyes, sapphire blue, with almost a cat-looking iris. Spikes emanating from the back of his head. Upon close inspection, you see it almost reminds you of a horse's mane, but spiked like waves. And as you look from one end all the way down to his spiked tail, they're all present across. The room suddenly cools, though even as you feel it cool, you aren't cold anymore. You hear a voice in your head. My child, I am proud. And that's all you hear from it. As the dragon dips his head towards you.
I bow back.
You hear the voice again. I am Bahamut. You have endured many tests today, to which you succeeded mostly with great fortitude. In the trials which you endured, you showed a great amount of self-sacrifice, courage, and humbleness, though even though it may not be at first. The clothes that you wear now are to remind you who you serve and where you come from. You have done well. And the dragon looks over at Torm, who now you see stand up from the table, his figure grow in size from the man that you saw sitting there. He grows to about 7, maybe 8 feet tall, it's hard to tell. And from around him, an aura that shines so brightly you almost have to shield your eyes. He grumbles and says, I do have to admit, I am surprised. And I would be proud to have you as a cleric of Torm. You have done well.
A cleric?
You can no longer be my knight. Even I, and the hardships that you have endured, do not repent for the oath that you had broken. Even though the gnome is annoying, very annoying, you are
Yeah, that's getting fucking annoying.
even though the gnome is very annoying, you are still a follower of self-sacrifice and courage. You swore to protect those who could not be protected. And instead of putting yourself in front of others to endure the pain and to promote self-sacrifice, you did not show courage or humbleness as you shoved the gnome back into the hole repeatedly. The self-restraint you showed was barely there as you almost kicked the poor gnome's skull in right before you arrived here. And for that, you can no longer be my knight. But you have shown that you have promise. And so long as you exemplify what we stand for, you can remain a cleric of me.
So no more kicking them.
And Bahamut won't kill you as you try to go walk out. And we'll get rid of the kobolds and the ice mephits and the air elemental outside. And he grumbles as he says this, looking very unhappy. And you look over, and out of the corner of the dragon's lips almost seem to smile. And with that, they just kind of study you.
So I can't bully the gnome anymore?
There is a fine line between making fun and intentionally harming. There is no wrong making fun of annoying people, but at the end of the day, your job does come first.
Understandable.
He nods. You hear a voice in your head. I do quite like the gnome.
God, why?
When you've been around for as long as me, you come to appreciate the smaller things in life. And you hear
He
the
is
laugh.
pretty small.
And you hear the laugh echo out of your head. Bahamut moves towards you with every talon on the floor. Boom! 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 As the floor shakes as he moves. And as you look up, he stands well over 7 or 8 times yourself. He cranes his neck down forward and breathes out cold on you. You feel your chest burn, but then you feel almost like as if your chest goes into a knot, and then slowly begins unforming as the dragon pulls away from you. Bahamut, no longer talking to you in his head, speaks out. His voice, even though you're of dragon nature, his voice pierces your head and sounds like the noise of 1,000 avalanches. You can no longer bear the Lord's Alliance symbol. Instead, you are now a child of Torm. And then bows his head at you.
I bow back.
As you curiously feel to where the magic scar of the Lord's Alliance used to be, you feel over it, and you feel a circle still, but inside the circle now feels like a hand on your chest. As you no longer bear the symbol of the Lord's Alliance, but instead the symbol of Torm.
This is that white glove you showed me, right?
Correct.
Okay.
You hear another ever-present voice inside your head. It is time for you to return, for you still have people to protect. I sense there is danger coming your way. Remain vigil, and Godspeed. And as the voice leaves from your head one final time, you look up towards Bahamut, and you see from within his chest start glowing bright blue as it grows up his throat and his mouth. And then he unleashes a breath attack on you. And from that, you wake up in the cave again. And that's it.
Not gonna lie.